welcome to another session of our Full Disclosure interview series, where we speak with actors working around transparency, accountability, and civic participation. Today we have Georgie and the IDFI team from Georgia. Welcome, Georgie and the team. Can you please introduce yourself and tell our listeners more about the work you do at IDFI?
Thank you very much. I'm Georgi Gliashvili. I'm the co-founder and executive director of IDFI, and together with me, there is Levan Avalishvili. He's the co-founder and programs director at IDFI, and Teona Turashvili. She's the e-governance and open data and communications direction lead at IDFI. So we are the team that we will be introducing our organization, what we are doing, what we are conducting, and what are the major directions and projects we have. IDFI was founded in 2009, and we actively started working in 2010. Major focus was access to information, openness of government, and we provided monitoring of government activities, anti-corruption related work that was one of the directions at IDFI, and we also worked in the archives as we both founders of these organizations are historians, and we worked in the contemporary archives in Georgia and beyond. So openness, we started with the openness of the archives, and then we expanded our openness work generally on the government institutions. So currently we are the hybrid organization, as we started just only two of us, the two founders of the organizations. Currently our staff is up to 30 persons, and we work on the multiple directions. We are a kind of a hybrid organization working both, and we are providing the watch, and we are conducting watchdog activities, as well as we do the consultancy and cooperation work with the government institutions and international donor organizations, etc. It means that we do the evidence-based research and then the advocacy of this research and consultancy, as well as the capacity awareness, capacity raising activities with the government institutions in Georgia and beyond. We are very actively involved in the Open Government Partnership when this international initiative started, and IDFI is one of the active organizations in this partnership. We are actively cooperating with OGP, especially on the public procurement related projects. We have the global project related to public procurement. We have the public procurement rating, and it is in partnership with the OGP. Myself, I was the steering committee member of OGP, the global OGP, in 2017 till 2020. Like my term recently ended, and open government related directions are the major in our work. Namely, as I said, human rights, social economic direction, rule of law, fighting corruption, etc. So we have 8 currently. I will list the directions we have at IDFI. As I have mentioned, the open government, SDGs, gender-related issues are also the part of IDFI's scope, but mainly our directions cover several major issues. The goal 1 is the promoting open governance. As I have mentioned, this is the major focus of IDFI. Anti-corruption direction is the second major goal. Social economic policy direction is the third direction of IDFI. The rule of law is the one of the major directions, and we work both on the central government level as well as the judiciary branch of the government. Decentralization direction of the local governments is one of the major focus topics of IDFI. The democratic transition and memory studies and archives is another important direction for IDFI. Media and freedom of expression is separately, and we work on these direction as well. Internet, open data and innovations is the eighth direction of the organization, and we have the cross-cutting topics like SDGs, public gender equality, disabilities, sustainable development agenda, SDGs, watchdog activities, poverty reduction, corruption, environment, OGP, public administration reform, and EU-Georgia Association Agreement as one of the major, like topics for the Georgian integration in the European Union. So these are the thematic directions for IDFI, but inside these directions, actually, we have the multiple projects and topics that we are actively working now. So this is just to start with, and I'll be happy to provide you with more detailed information about each of the topics.
Yeah, thank you so much, Georgie, for that very broad insight into the work that IDFI does. But my question to you is, how did all this start? What actually motivated you into working into issues of right to information and human rights issue in general? How did it start?
Well, actually, as I've mentioned, we worked in the state archives, mainly on the Soviet history related topics, and we saw that there was a limited access to archival documents. And then we realized that if there is not a general transparency, openness, government accountability, and access to public documents at large, we could not separately speak about the archive openness. This is why we expanded our work on the different branches of government and started advocating for access to information. Starting from 2010, annually, we are publishing the access to information rating in Georgia. It covers all government institutions, both on the central level and executive level, executive and the local level. So we are covering up to more than up to 400 government institutions, both on the central and local level, and we are publishing the rating, how accountable and transparent, and what is the environment related to access to information. We have been advocating for improvement, and for instance, when our first report was published in 2010, it was only the 40% of the openness rating in Georgia among the government institutions. And we had the highest in 2013, when we had up to 95% of the access to information. So there was a huge and significant increase in this percentage of openness of government institutions. So we are both working on the legislation of improving access to information, as well as the practical aspects, and we are providing trainings, constant monitoring and watchdog activities on access to information. And even we participated in amendments of the Constitution of Georgia, etc., in both like on the access to information and the good service delivery from the government and access to internet, etc. So Georgia was the first country in the world who guaranteed the constitutional right to internet. So it was IDFI's initiative. So I wanted to explain that these are the, like how broadly we work in Georgia. But as I mentioned, we have projects which is beyond Georgia. We have several projects. We are actively involved in the open government partnership activities. We are organizing conferences and events on open government related issues like corruption in government sector, or the electoral corruption, etc. So these are the not only Georgia-based activities, but quite actively we are working globally. And the project which is related to public procurement, currently we have more than 40 countries in our rating. This is a global project. We are assessing the legislation related to public procurement, and we are also publishing rating of the implementation, the practical aspects of the public procurement. And we have 40 countries starting from Latin America, Africa, Asia countries, Eurasia, Eastern and Southern European countries. So we have quite an extensive expansion of this scale and geography of the project, and we are increasing in the number of countries who participate in this project. Also, we are actively, we started working and engaged with the Global Data Barometer, and we will be covering 2 regions. This is the Eastern Partnership region, the former Soviet countries of the Southern and Eastern Europe and Caucasus region, and also the Central Asian countries. And we have the archive openness rating, which covers 20 countries at this moment, mostly the Eurasian countries, but several European and Asian countries are also involved, and we are also planning to expand this rating. These are the projects which we are quite actively involved in. We are working globally on the sustainable development agenda. We are promoters of this work, and we have 2 offices in the Parliament of Georgia and in one of the regional parliament office as well. Georgia has a regional autonomous republic of Achara, and we have the office in the Supreme Council of this autonomous republic. So we actively work with the Supreme Court of Georgia. We are preparing the statistics of the court statistics to have it actually in the open data performance. We are also working on the disinformation related issues, like disinformation that come from Russia, and analyzing this data, etc. We work with different government institutions on the central and on the executive, central and local levels. We are preparing analytical documents, including action plans and the strategic documents, and also providing trainings on the various topics, including fighting corruption and anti-corruption strategies and action plans, as well as the open data ones. We have prepared up to 20 websites for local governments, which are quite modern and enables public participation, as well as the different tools for e-governance. And also on the central level, we are quite active, engaged in the different watchdog activities, monitoring of the corruption environment in Georgia, public procurement, analyzing, etc. So it's quite a multi-directional work that we do. We are quite actively involved in the public administration reform. We worked with the Public Prosecutor's Office and increased the capacity of Public Prosecutor's Office on the hate-related crimes, and also we provided the monitoring of the strategy and action plan of the Public Prosecutor's Office. And currently we have a long-term project on the monitoring of the public administration reform in Georgia. We have also the social economic direction. It covers multiple topics, including the analysis of the economic environment in Georgia, social related directions like healthcare, and etc. So it is a bit of the direction that goes in the frames of the good governance and the open governance. So Both public services are analyzed by IDFI. We are actively engaged in the e-governance strategy implementation and the action plan implementation. We are the ones who we are directly involved in drafting this action plan, where we are also focused on the development of new technologies and open data standards in Georgia. We have the regional network of organizations, and we are providing monitoring of the transparency and public participation in the local governments, and we have the rating of the local governments that measures and assesses the conditions and the level and ranking of these components in the local governments, and it is quite well appreciated and respected by the local and international community. So we have multiple websites that we operate and administer, because probably like each of the rating has its own website, which is where we publish different data, analysis, research pieces, etc. So maybe my colleagues could add what we have missed, because actually it's a multiple directions that we are operating, and I might miss some of them, because currently we have 15 active projects, and even this is enough to like forget something what we are actively doing, and we have tens of projects that we have already implemented. So this is a 100-page document which describes IDFI's activities that I will be happy to share with you.
All right. Thank you, Georgie. You must be very busy, I must say.
Yeah. Actually, we were quite busy during COVID times, because I think we were quite intense in providing various work during the COVID time. Despite that we were working from distant, we had the distant mode of working. There was no one day when we missed even to publish a piece of document or research or any activity that we tried to promote, like, and analyze the government responses to COVID, etc. So we were providing with recommendations not only in Georgia but beyond. Actually, we worked with the African Union. We provided the recommendations how to provide the public procurement and improve public procurement, and what has to be paid attention during the public procurement in crisis and pandemic times, as well as the proactive disclosure of information, what is the most important information for the citizens and society from government side to be published. It was quite well used by the Open Government Partnership as well. As I mentioned, we are quite actively cooperate with this partnership, and most of our work is and lots of projects we have and events that are organized together with the OGP. We have multiple donors. We have the organizational support grant from the Swedish development agency SIDA. Also, we have the core funding from the global philanthropic organization Luminate, and we have the several year grants as well as the 1 year or several months grants from different donor organizations, both governmental and private, as well as the multilaterals. For instance, we are the implementing partners of the UNDP on their projects of increasing parliamentary democracy in Georgia, and we work with the Parliament of Georgia and the regional parliaments to promote open government standards in these institutions. We have private projects from the private foundations like the Open Society Foundation, etc. So we cooperate with the different research institutions, universities on the research projects, and we have the USAID funded projects as well, several of them currently.
Great. So in all these projects you've been working on with your team, and I would like Thelma and Levan to also contribute. What are the challenges? And really, I would like you to speak briefly each so that you can all have an opportunity to participate. What are the challenges of running these projects, especially in trying to promote good governance in Georgia, specifically, and in broader sense, the other countries your program affects? What are the challenges you are faced, and what changes do you see? So for instance, Thelma, you might be speaking from the communications perspective of trying to align all these things together.
I will start before Theona will continue. Actually, currently the major challenge is the pandemic, because we never know when we will be locked because of the spread of this virus. We were locked we had this lockup for almost a month in March, April, and we recently had the elections just 2 days ago, and today the government already initiated some restrictions of wearing masks, etc. So pandemic is the number one challenge, because it prevents you from organizing large-scale events with many participants, etc. So we are on the actually, we are organizing most of our work currently online. We ourselves working mainly from homes and distantly. So it's a major challenge. Another is the priority of the topics that we are initiating. It might not go under the priority of the government, or which is our counterparts. For instance, when the Open Government Partnership was a high priority for the government, it was a very active process. IDFI was in the leading organizations working on OGP. Georgia became first the member of steering committee and then the chair of the partnership, and we even Georgia hosted the global event of the OGP Global Summit in 2018. But soon the importance and priority diminished, and Georgia is not that much active, despite that we are promoting the OGP not only in Georgia but globally. But when you have the support and the coincide, and this interest and priorities coincide with your counterparts from the government, it is much easier to achieve the goals and have the faster and smooth success. But when have to convince and advocate for the certain issues, you have to mobilize lots of resources, both financially as well as the partners, to convince your counterparts. And when they are already convinced, and when they are interested themselves to achieve some of the goals, it is of course much easier. So probably I would say that in our work, major challenges when our activities and our goals is not the priority for the counterparts. I'm not talking about the watchdog work and the monitoring activities. It is the different, it's outside the cooperation frames, and this is much easier. But when you have a project that you have to that the government should do some of the steps to improve something, and there is the interest from the government side, they accept your documents without, have a proper, opposing it, etc. But when you have to do it yourself and then convince that it is important for them, if they are there, it's the decision makers sometimes are not convinced enough, and they just don't care. So this is a challenge. Maybe my colleagues can add if they have anything to it.
So I can add regarding watchdog activities, because Georgi very well described these challenges regarding to advocating particular policy recommendations. As for watchdog activities, I would say that The challenge could be how, for example, polarized situation we have in Georgia these times, because of course, when we publish, for example, particular publications, and afterwards media is covering this, and we see that it is quite polarized. We have a very polarized situation, and at the same time, in order to somehow increase the skills of journalists and different stakeholders, we sometimes organize trainings in order to increase their knowledge about how to use data, for example, because IDFI is very experienced in this. It's obvious that they lack such kind of skills, especially because even in case of media organizations, sometimes they don't have enough resources to take care of the skills of their journalists. But we try our best to have trainings for them, but of course our trainings are not enough, and that's why we are trying to somehow have create special programs for journalists, for students, and to share our experience with them, and to raise their capacity in this direction. So this is one of the challenges, I would say. But of course, at the same time, our activities sometimes, of course, we cannot cover the whole country, and that's why we are trying to innovate, to make some innovations, and to create some tools which will be accessible for many people and cover these people. But sometimes we have these problems how to attract their attention towards these tools. So this is this challenge, how to reach out more people, I would say. I think you are muted now.
Thank you. So in the nearest future, what kind of changes do you envisage? And this goes to everyone. Do you envisage in countering these challenges that you are facing currently?
Well, actually, the government-related processes is one of the challenges in Georgia, and currently we have the political crisis because after elections, the opposition was very unsatisfied with the results and unhappy, and there are demonstrations and protests planned in the nearest future, and we don't know yet whether the parliament will take the parliament will take place soon, and this type of environment is quite, like how to say, like it's a bit tense environment in Georgia, because a lot of it's related to political stability, like even the economic situation. The pandemic significantly hit Georgian economy, and how the general environment will be during this COVID crisis, before this situation is not settled, is not predictable. And our expectations is that we are actively working on the current projects. We are very much now focused on expanding and going more actively beyond the Georgian borders, and work with the regionally or globally, and increase our global and regional projects. Because in Georgia we are quite well established, and we have a very strong experience of working on. We have, as you saw, we have a lot of directions, and we think that we can share this experience that we have gained for in these 10 years of our active work with our partners regionally and globally, working on different continents and with different societies. And we think that our experience working on public procurement, public administration reform, open data, e-governance, etc., access to information, parliamentary openness, and others we can share with our partners globally. So we are quite actively using different networks and coalitions and initiatives. We work with financial institutions to promote more transparency, like with the World Bank and Asia Development Bank, etc. We work with the Council of Europe, European Union, Eastern Partnership based platforms to promote the standard that we have established with our work in Georgia. So regional focus will be IDFI's future quite an active direction. Like we are, as I mentioned, we are engaged with different initiatives like the Global Data Barometer, promoting open data standards. We will start regionally and we'll go beyond as well, I think, and promoting public procurement project, this TPPR, and actually we will share what our achievements are with you, and you can read like in more details what we have. We will be speaking today. So I would say that the focus will be made on the regional and global projects that we can be engaged in.
Thank you. So this question goes to you, Georgie Levan,
Yes.
as the program officer, and perhaps Tilma, you might have something to say to this. So if you are to answer this question, what do grantees want in regards to having a smarter relationship with their funders? What will your candid answer be?
I'm very sorry. Can you please repeat the question? So what is the grants that we would like to speak about with the donors? Am I correct?
No, my question is this, as a grantee organization, as a grantee
Yes.
itself, if you are to give your candid and honest opinion about how to for a smarter relationship with funders.
Okay. Sounds good. A very good question. Thank you for that. Actually, I want to say that IDFI is the only organization in Georgia which has the certificate from the NGO source, which is under which IDFI is considered the equivalent to the US public charity organization.
Mm-hmm.
So we can very easily get grants from the US donors, the private foundations, which are the members of the NGO source. So with this certificate that we have got the second term already, we are easily affordable for the US grants. About the donor relationship with the donors, actually, we have a different type of grants. Some are easily provided because, like when you have the core funding, it is more flexible. And which are the, like either very directly focused grants on the particular activities. It is prescribed from the beginning, like what will be the exact goal of the project and the outcome. Some of the donors are more involved in the micromanagement, and some of the donors are not that much. So when you are the, for instance, implementing partner of the donor organization, they might be more involved in the implementation project as well. So they are more involved in the micromanagement. And some are, like providing grants, and they are not that much involved in the implementation phase of the project. So what I can say about the donors, we never had any complications in our grants, despite that we operate for more than 10 years already. We never had a failed grant or failed project. Whatever IDFI is receiving as a grant or it's a conditional grant, it is a budgeted grant or whatever it is. Everything is published on IDFI's website, including the contracts with the donors, amount, budget, timeline, activities, and all the relative information about the grant. And under the grant description, there is all activities, all publications, work, etc., which is done in the framework of the project. So whoever is interested what IDFI is doing under the particular project, everything is published on our website. So a person, for instance, no matter whether it is a donor or a person interested in the work of IDFI or potential partner or whoever it is interested what was done under this certain project, everything is linked to the project description. And together with this, we have published the whole list of all projects which are current and implemented. It is, as I've mentioned, it's a 100 pages document with the detailed description of each project, with the contact information of the donor, grant number, etc. So everything is there. And we never had any problems with the donors. Like we have established, we are quite an established partner with quite a strong history and portfolio, and we are constantly contacted and approached by the different donors themselves who are interested in providing projects in Georgia and beyond. So we have a strong and clear reputation. We are a good partner with different government, non-government, or donor actors. So I can directly say that so far, and I hope in future we will not have any complication with the donor community.
So I can add several words as well. So in case of smarter grant making, I would say that, as Georgi mentioned, it depends on donors in general, what kind of contracts we have with them and what kind of relationships we have. But in general, it's our opinion that sometimes when they give us some flexibility, it is easier for us to respond to current challenges as well, especially in countries like Georgia, which is very, when the situation sometimes changes, and you can, for example, at this time, maybe it is important to, for example, investigate particular cases, but as priorities changes, maybe next time it will be better to focus on different topics. And if donors give us some kind of flexibility in this regard, and if we can and have this opportunity to select the topics on our own, this effectiveness of our work is increasing. And of course, we have this privilege of having such donors, including Luminate. We are designing the projects we would love to see, and we don't have some kind of supervision from them. But as Georgi mentioned, there are donors which have fixed some kind of ideas and needs, and that's why for us it's not possible to have some flexibility. But since Georgia is a transition country, I think such kind of grants and such kind of flexibility is needed. But of course, we understand that in this case they should trust us, and so we need some kind of they should trust us, and that's why for them credibility of our work is important. Yeah.
Thank you. Livan? Okay. So finally, my question is, if you were to give a recommendation, looking back to your younger self, when you started this work, if you were to advise your younger self, what would that advice be? Or to people who are just starting out in this field, who are interested in the kind of work you do and want to start, but they just need someone to like share an advice, like this is the way it is.
Well,
So
the major advice is to show a strong enthusiasm in what their goal to in achieving their goals. When we started for 1 year, when we didn't have a project, we like we were working and showing ourselves our expertise, that we are the experts in the field. It's not only about like having a grant, because when you are not established organization, you are just like grassroots organization who is starting its activities and approaching to the donors. They have to like show first their capacity, they have to show their expertise, and they have to show that they are able to implement a project, because donor is always looking that they are investing in something, they are issuing a certain amount of money to an organization which should be able to achieve the goals in which they are what they are writing in their project proposals. So first they have to show that they are not only eager but also able to implement a project. For a certain amount of time, they might not be able to get the grant, but they should not stop, and this is how we started. As I mentioned, there were only two of us who started the organization without zero funding, and we showed ourselves and made our ways, showing that like we are the experts in the field, we can do the projects. Then we increased our capacity, then we increased like our policies, internal capacity, our expertise as the as the ones who really can do the projects, implement the projects, and the focus areas that we have is really the one that we are the professionals in. So this is why we have the multiple directions. We started with like one or two topics, and currently we are covering uh, dozens of topics. So it's something that like we try to show ourselves that we are the ones that donors can trust.
thank you. Fiona?
I would say that, as Georgi mentioned, you should, especially when you are starting something, you should put all your efforts, I would say. And also you should have some kind of, not strategy, but at least vision, what you want to achieve or change, and what is your major goal. If you don't have any goal, of course, you cannot achieve anything, because it will be just a project. For example, in our case, sometimes we have some kind of, we know that we want to change something, even though we don't have any project. We are doing, for example, are studying some particular areas, and afterwards maybe this particular call for applications arises on this topic, and we have a project on this. But in general, you should know what you want to change, and in this case, you should focus on the type of work you want to implement, and it should be interesting for you as well. So this is the main, some kind of advice from my side. So it should be very interesting for you.
Thank you, Fiona. Livan, do you have any final thoughts?
Sure. Very interesting question. Actually, we started from 2009. Me and Georgi, we were just two guys, and created this organization. And maybe it was better to invest more on organizational development from the beginning of our work, because it's changed a lot in our activities and in the scale that we are working right now. So, and actually we had very good grant from think tank fund, if you know, it's OSGF program that helped us to develop our organizational background. We made some policies, we made a lot of changes inside of organization, and it helped us to move forward and get more, more funds from bigger organizations. That's how we we make the theory of change and other stuff, and it showed us more clearly where we're going, what we want to do, what we want to achieve, and to find this strategic goals of organization, and all this in general helped us to create more stronger organization and stronger system of organization. So if we did it before 2 years earlier or 3 years earlier, I think that we can make more right now than we did it at this point. So it's crucial, and it's most important for new organizations, new established organizations, to invest a lot in organizational capacity and organizational building. So it's a very hard decision for small organizations, because they have to invest a lot in something that they could not imagine how it will help them in the future, but it's very important. Great.
Thank you very much, Levan. And on that note, we call it a wrap for this interview. Thank you very much, the IDFI team, for joining us today.